right. We got let people coming in. All right. Let's do this. Starting live video.
And you have to change it to the speaker, I think. I don't know if it's set up that way in Zoom.
Yep. Nope. I always do speaker mode.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Mark, you got a new background.
That I do.
You got you. Hey, I called you out. You called me out for my new background the other day, so call you out on yours. Welcome
It's a
in,
little different,
everybody.
different environment.
It is nice little kitchen you got there. Real quick, let us know, everybody, where you're tuning in from, whether you are over on Facebook, whether you are here on Zoom. And guys, if you're over on Facebook, I will put the Zoom link in the chat so you can join. We're here to answer all your questions and help you out with everything. So, real quick, just let us know. Don't be scared. No need to worry. You're on Zoom. Yes, we know you're on Zoom, but where are you from? I know you can't be from Zoom. So, yep, let us know where you're from. What city, what state. Let us know so we can kind of understand where you're at, and then maybe we can help you with maybe a deal in your area. So, all right. Let me put in here real quick and at everyone. I don't know if it lets me do it from there. I'm going to have to do it from the actual page. I have to do it from the page. Cool. How you doing, Mark?
Doing well. I as you can tell, I'm on my phone because my internet went down today. It's weird. The whole where I'm at, the whole area went down, and it's been down for about 4 or 5 hours, and they keep sending notices out. Oh, we're gonna be here little by little. Sorry about that. Someone just sent me a text on that. Hey Tommy, how you doing? Um, yeah, so I'm doing well. The week, beautiful weather. I don't know if you saw the video I posted this morning. I got up and wake up and I look outside and I see this 110-foot yacht just going by my property here. So it was just stunning waking up that way. But 76 is a high, not a cloud in the sky. It was just beautiful today.
Yeah, I know. I know. Up in northern Florida, they had some snow last week. You,
7 inches. Isn't that crazy?
that's insane.
7 inches.
That's insane. All right,
Yeah,
we
it
got
would have been kind of cool. It would have been kind of cool walking the beach and seeing snow in Florida, though. That would have been kind of a different experience.
those all the whole Gulf Coast basically. So maybe not the whole Gulf Coast, but a good portion of it. I need to move
Yep.
my participants over here. There we go.
And
All
then
right.
New Orleans got clobbered too.
Yeah, they did. So hopefully people's roofs are good, their pipes didn't freeze, and maybe you know what, if some pipes froze and they're gone for a couple days, that might be a good time to swoop in and say, hey, you want to sell your property?
No, I have some property up in New England, and it was getting down minus. I think it was minus like 8, and I'm like, you guys need to get over there and make sure because I have one of the units empty. I go, make sure you get over there and make sure if the heat is on in that place, so we don't have that issue.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely something that is very very worrisome because I saw was I mean, we get it pretty often here, but there was a lot of people that had pipes busting in the area, and some people didn't know what to do. So when it comes to that, it's kind of like if it's too much for them to handle, they might be willing to sell the property or
There you
loan
go.
or finance it or something. That's the way I look at it because I like to do those value adds, you know.
Oh, this market is a great market. I don't know if you saw they came out with the data of 2024 was the lowest amount of sales in the last 30 years. So what's happening is two things. People that have low interest rates are not selling, or the ones that have low interest rates and they don't have a lot, they're having a problem, they can't sell the property. So properties start, depending on your market, they're sitting longer in the majority of the country. And those are the best opportunities. I love this market, quite frankly. I want higher interest rates because for what I do, when people can't sell and it's harder for people to buy, I like buying through seller financing strategies and negotiate and get a really low interest rate from the seller. And oftentimes you can structure it in a way keeping that existing mortgage with the sellers in place and say it's a 3.5, 4% interest rate, you can benefit from that as the investor. That's what I love doing, and I do quite a few of those.
No, that's definitely makes sense. I mean, for a lot of people that are doing like buy and holds or they're flipping, they get these high interest rates, and if you can find someone with a low interest rate that's willing to sell or finance, give a
There's
little
a
money
ton
in
of
their
them out there.
pocket. Yeah.
Yep.
Even if they have like that 2%, you see if they'll do 3 or 4%, 3.5 or
Yeah. So where I'm at right now, my other half, she's like, why don't we just pay off the mortgage? I'm like, we have a 2.8% interest rate. That's free money. You will never see that again. Let's take that capital and deploy it into other assets instead of just tying it up in our main. And I get where she's coming from, but that's the mindset. Our parents are growing up and pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt. But you have to understand the good debt versus the bad debt.
yes, 100%. All right. We got people telling us Orem, Utah. I've never heard of that, but out in Utah, that's awesome. Silver Spring, Maryland, I guess. Do you know where that is?
I know where it very, very well. When I had my real estate banking company, it was in Columbia, Maryland, Hanover, Maryland, right off of Route 100 Coca-Cola Drive. So I'm sure the person from Silver Spring. So that's where I started my real estate banking career back in 1995 in that area. I started out in the DC area, New Carlton area. It was just inside the Beltway. And then we ended up moving our company actually, we were in Silver Springs for about 6 months. And then we actually end up moving, no, it was yeah, Silver Springs. And then we ended up in the Columbia, Maryland area, and then Hanover in that particular area where we end up having 107 loan officers working for us.
Oh, that's awesome. That makes, I mean, I guess you do know that area pretty well then.
I don't miss the traffic. I like the food. The food is good, and it's a great sports town. You got the Baltimore Ravens, the Redskins. I mean, they're huge in sports in that area. Down here in Florida, um, you know, I love football, but I don't want to sit inside on a beautiful Sunday when it's out. I'd rather be out boating or doing something. But you kind of don't follow sports as much compared to when you're up north and it's cold. You love sitting inside watching sports, but it's different down here. You don't, you just want to be outside enjoying the beautiful weather in the wintertime.
No, it makes sense. Makes sense. Wish baseball was all year round down there. It is down there more. All right, we got Garrett from Charlotte, North Carolina. We got Liz from Florida. We got Lisa from Dallas. Welcome in, welcome in. If you guys are on Facebook, let us know where you're tuning in from. There is also a link there for you to join. Feel free to hop in there and join. We are here to answer your questions. But Mark, let's go ahead. Like you have done a lot of real estate, and I mean a lot. And it's all
Going on
been
about going on, I think going on about 500 million now.
500 million.
Yep.
So that's some experience. So I would say that's some experience. Welcome in Natalie from Richmond, Virginia. Welcome in. Now, real quick, go ahead and talk about where you started. Did you start with a single family home? Did you go straight into residential or commercial, multifamily? What did you do? Go ahead. Let's
I
go ahead and hear
started
about that.
I actually started on a mobile home, just one single mobile home at the age of 19. I started a mobile home and I was up in New England and I put a sign up in the sign. I did a Carlton Sheets book. It was like infomercials way back in the day. So I went and got some cardboard and I write, "We buy homes," or "We buy houses," and I went and put it up on the telephone poles. And I put a bunch of them up. And I was 19. I didn't know that you're not allowed to put signs up on telephone poles. The municipality called me up. "You can't do this. You got to go take it down." So I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it. I'll go take it down." So when I was going around taking them down, this gentleman called me up and he goes, "Hey, I got this mobile home for sale. It's worth 21,000. Give me $18,000 for it." I'm like, "I'm not interested in a mobile home." So a week goes by, he calls me back again. He goes, "Give me $15,000 for it. It's worth 21." I go, "I told you I'm not interested in a mobile home. So I'm just not interested." So then another week or two goes by, he calls me back. He goes, "Give me $12,000 for it. It's worth 21." I'm like, "Well, do you own the land?" He goes, "No, it's in a mobile home park." I'm like, I'm still not interested in it. So a month goes by. And I call this a boomerang. I throw it away and they come back. At the time I didn't know what it was. But a month goes by, he calls me back again. He goes, "Give me $6,000 for it. It's worth 21,000." Now I know there's a deal here. I'm thinking to myself, "Well, I told you I'm not interested. Why do you have to sell it?" He goes, "Oh, I don't live there. I got a lot of rent coming due." I said, "I'm not interested in a mobile home. I told you that at all. But this is what I'll do. I don't want to do this, but I'll give you $3,000 for it. He goes, oh, come on, give me 4,000. I go, I told you I'm not interested. So we agreed to $3,000. And I said, okay, what I need to do is I need to go get a contract because we didn't really have the internet back then. I had to go to the op store and said, we need to get an inspection done. So we agreed. I hung up the phone, placed an ad in the newspaper for a classified ad, mobile home for sale, $25,000, owner financing with $3,000 down. This lady called me up, her and her boyfriend or fiance went out. They went and looked at it. They loved it immediately, and we did all the paperwork. So they gave me the $3,000. I took that $3,000. I ended up giving it to the seller to buy the property. I ended up creating a note around like 7.75 at like 7 years. It was like $300 a month. So at that time, $300 is a lot of money for a 19. It paid my car and my insurance for many years, for about 7 years on it. So that was my first deal. But then for 5 years, I got into the corporate world. And then I started getting back into real estate banking at the age back in 1995 at the 25 now 24, 25. And then I started surrounding myself with investors. My investors became clients. I started becoming friends with. I got myself surrounded by them. And the original concept was most investors do this. They start with the fix and flips. That's really what most people think of real estate investing. I'm going to fix and flip. So I did a couple of those. And then I started to learn more. Then I went into doing they're called sandwich lease options. I did quite a few of those for about 2 years. That was my first creative financing strategy. So what happens is all these different seller financing strategies, they've taken me 2 to 3 years of each of these different strategies to learn and kind of do and implement, kind of work out through the whole process. I mean, there's so many different seller financing within, but I started with what was called a sandwich lease option. And what happened was it was kind of like where the market's now. The rates were around like 7.75, and they jumped up, and homes weren't selling. Homes were sitting on the market for about how long were they sitting for? Probably 4 to 6 months. They weren't moving. So I'd tell the sellers like, "Hey, I want to buy your property on a rent to own," and they're like, "Oh, you know what? I'd love to do it, but I need my money to buy my other property." A lot of times they're moving, they're building a new home. So I said, "All right, this is what I'll do. I'll refinance that existing loan to like 80% loan to value." And at the time, we were doing 5-1 ARMs or 5-2 ARMs. ARMs are not very popular now, but back then they were. So it's fixed for 5 years. It's a 5-year ARM, so it's fixed for 2 years and then adjusts. So I got my interest rate at that time like around 5.5%, even though the fixed rates were around 7.75. So what I would do is I would refinance the property, the seller. Then I would say, oh, by the way, I want to do the other loan for you. So then I would end up doing that loan too, the new purchase. And then I'll put my rent to own, my tenant buyer in the property. So in one lead, one technically lead, I ended up making 3 different type of revenue streams. I was making like $35,000 just doing that whole entire process. So I started out doing that for a good year and a half. So it's just me and a processor, and I was doing about 2 to 3 of those a month. Think about that, making $30,000 per deal, and you're doing 2 or 3 a month. And I was young at the time doing this. So I started that. That was one strategy. I did that for a little bit, and then I kind of moved into doing other type of seller financing strategies. And then at some point during the journey, I ended up bringing salespeople in. I ended up putting a whole team in place with managers, and it kind of blew up. Had all the different I had it was a whole sales process with scripts. We had a process. Somebody would, we had a fronter, then they would go to like a closer, they would close it. Then we had different people doing this, and then a lot of them we're holding a lot of those deals at that time, because that's where the real money's at. Is these guys are out there doing assignment fees and assignment deals. It's great, but the real money, and I'll give you an example. Like one of my members in my program, she was going to lock up a deal and just do an assignment. She was going to ask for $15,000, and I said, "What are you going to make when you realistically when you get rid of that?" She goes, "I don't know, $8,000 to $10,000." We went through the deal analysis on it, and with her staying in the middle, she was going to make $171,000 on it instead. But the reason why she was going to sign it is because it needed $35,000 worth of work, and she didn't have it. So what we did is I showed her how to market that, to a seller, I'm sorry, to a buyer that was more of a handyman special type of thing. So, and she still made $15,000 on the front end, and she cash flows. I think she was cash flowing, I don't remember, like close to $800, somewhere in $900, and then she's gonna make all the money in the back. And that's why I love the way doing these. I love buying through a seller financing and then selling through a seller financing and create the arbitrage. And I like to use my end buyer's capital to get into the deal. So I can get into, I get into so many deals with zero money down. Some direct, like multifamily, I've done many of those with no money down. But on the single family homes in nice neighborhoods, I prefer buying it through seller financing and selling it through self financing, because you're just creating paper and you're creating the note process and you're getting that cash flow. But a lot of times I'll sell it as a rent to own, depending on the state. So I'll, because I understand what it takes for them to become homeowners. And that's kind of the process I go through when I'm talking to a seller. I explain what I'm going to do. I'm straightforward. I tell them exactly what I'm going to do. Hey, my agreement is between you and me and my company. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up putting a tenant buyer in a property that eventually become homeowners. And these are good people that want to become homeowners. They just can't get traditional financing. And they usually have credit challenges, but I underwrite them based off of the income. So we underwrite, we're very selective on who we put in there, and they usually put a larger down payment. We cash flow, and that's where you really get the best deals. It's just staying in the deal and just cash flowing and just creating that passive income.
Okay. Dang, you just gave a ton of info.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Everybody's brains just go boom.
I
So,
know you know, where the really go pop is when you actually you're talking to a seller and you're analyzing a deal, because there's so many different ways of structuring that deal. So, and that's what I show people how to do it, is because you have to listen to the seller. And if you understand the seller and how to solve their problems, that's the key, is listening to the seller and pulling it out. Like when I'm on the phone talking to a seller, there's two things I always want to know. Why are they selling? And what are they planning on doing with the capital? Because if you know that and how to solve the problems, that's how you can get in structuring these deals really cheap. So I always like this question when I'm talking, when I'm talking right now, I have a lot of times my VAs doing this stuff, but when I go through the process of, oh, it sounds like a beautiful home. Why are you selling? You're asking questions, you're trying to find out, are they head person, heart person? Are they talking about the neighborhood? Are they talking about where they put their Christmas tree? Then they're a heart person. Head person is numbers. I love that. I love them all, really, but head people, it's just, they get it and they want that. They're easy because they don't want to get hit with capital gains. They like selling on installment sales, and they like that passive income. So it works great. But I always love that question. Oh, it sounds like a beautiful property. Why are you selling? And then another question I really like doing. Yeah, and you have to dumb it down, because you know how you just said your head explodes? You have to really dumb it down to sellers to make it easy. You can't make it complicated. So in the initial phone call, I'm talking to them, would you be willing to rent the property to me for a few years? And we'll close on it, and I'll take care of the maintenance and repairs. And if they say yes, then they're going to be open to some type of creative seller financing terms. So you're finding out, oh, it sounds like a beautiful home while you're selling. You're finding out why they're selling, because, oh, I'm moving for a job. I lost my spouse, we're getting a divorce. So you kind of know, based off of the answers, if they're going to be, how motivated they are, and do they need to sell that? Do they need a large amount of money down based off of why they're selling? That's how I can determine that. And then, oh, I bought another home. Then I start talking to them. Oh, beautiful. What kind of home is it? You go down that path and pull that out and talk to them about that home. Because when you start talking to them about their home and start talking to them about what the life is like once this property, their problem property, is sold, they're seeing what the life is like without that headache anymore. So then you come back, and then my last question I love asking, I go through a bunch of questions, but these three questions I really love. If you can't sell the home, what are you going to do? And I shut up. If you can't sell the property, or you can't sell the home, what are you going to do? Well, I guess I got to rent it. Well, ding, ding, reach out to me. You don't have to pay a property manager. I'll even take care of the maintenance and repairs. So those are the type of things that you kind of go through. And the key to it, 70%, 70% of my deals come from follow-up, where they originally say no, not to my type of, creative terms. I don't say creative to them, just the investors. They originally say no to the seller financing terms if they come back around. But I really keep it simple and keep it easy. And if there's no mortgage on it, if it's a seller that's an investor that's owned it for 12, 15 years, I can immediately say it because he gets it. But if it's your typical person that needs to sell because they're downsizing, the children moved out, or they can't afford the property for whatever the situation, then I kind of dumb it down. Would you be willing to rent it? And I'll take care of the maintenance and repairs. Then it opens it up. And then if they say yes, then I go ahead and I underwrite the deal, structure it, get to know them. And then at that point, I'll start presenting different type of seller financing offers to them based off of what I know what their issue is and how to solve that problem.
Again, boom. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but
Sorry. I try to keep it simple for you all, but
no, it's still a lot. You just named so much, you know? So we do have some questions coming in. Are you ready to answer
bring the
some questions?
questions. Go ahead and ask away.
All right. So, well, first of all, Chloe's saying Dallas, she's in Dallas and she's a fan of yours. I don't
Thank
know
you,
if,
Chloe.
yep. And then we got Liz is asking, what do you think about subject to with loan carryback? No interest, no payment for 5 years, so it's a balloon. Um, we want a contingency for forgiveness on the promissory note if we have to refinance if a bank does a due on sale clause. How
Yeah,
would you handle it versus how we propose it?
repeat. Can you repeat that one more time? Because it's like two or three different questions there, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah. Let's start with number one. What do you think about a subject to with a loan carryback, no interest, no payment, 5 year interest balloon?
I do it all the time, all the time. Sometimes I will give them interest to make it a little bit more attractive. I would rather pay interest to get a lower price because if I pay it off early, then I don't have to worry about that interest. I know a lot of people that rather do no interest and give them a higher price. And so it depends. Again, I've done them. I do them all the time. But for me, if I'm going to pay that off, I would rather have paid less equity. But I ask them typically what you're looking for in a monthly payment because I'm okay paying a little bit more in interest if I can get a lower, like say for example that equity is say 75,000. If I can get that maybe down to 60,000 and then maybe give them 4 or 5% interest and the payment's still the same, I'm going to make my back end. I'm going to be able, if I pay that off sooner, then I'm going to make that difference in the spread. Does that, and if you do an amortization schedule, you'll see what I mean. Does that make sense? Okay.
Mhm.
Yep, but
And
they're
then,
good. It doesn't really matter when you first start, structure however it works just to kind of get the deals going and getting your momentum going, that type of thing. And the next part of that question,
so how would you handle it and versus how would you propose it?
how do I handle it versus proposing it? So proposing it is just listening to the seller and finding out like let me give you an example. Like I like to say how much money do you need to live? If I understand what the problem is and I'm solving it, then that's how I do it. Like I had this one lady that I purchased 13 units and I said, how much money do you need monthly? And she said 2,500. I was willing to pay 4,500. My numbers worked at 4,500. I told her I'm willing to, she said 2,500. I said, all right, how about 22.5? We end up at 22.5. And the interest rate on that is 4%. But in my numbers, I was okay paying 4,500 because we're collecting like almost $14,000. I'm cash flowing $6,700 a month on that particular asset. It's a multifamily. It's like several doors on that one. But because I asked the payment versus the rates and terms, that's kind of how I like to do that. Like, hey, what do you think? What kind of monthly payment do you need on that type of situation? So so that's how I answer. But again, if you can get the deal to work and your numbers work, more power. Structure however it works. I structure based off of what the seller's looking for, because I can always make my deal work based off of if I back in differently, come from different angles. And then the next question in that.
Okay. That was that one for that one.
Okay.
That was it.
Hopefully that helped.
Yep.
But subject to deals I love. I do them, but I will never offer subject to a seller that's not financial distress. They're gonna look at you like you're crazy. if they're not financially distressed, I never do subject to. I go down a different seller financing offers, still controlling it. There's a lot of different ways of doing it, like an agreement for deed, installment sale, there's different ways of doing it, and it helps so it doesn't trigger the due on sales clause as well through different insurers. But if they're financial distress, I'm transferring, I'm putting it into a land trust, and I'm controlling it through the beneficiary. But still, you can still do these other strategies and still put them into a trust and still control it. So there's different ways of going about it. But again, it all depends on the seller. And if there's a realtor involved, and they're not financially distressed, they're all going to look at you like you're crazy. And and I'm sure it happens. And I can't tell you how many people in my group, and I don't want to get competition here, that's gone against another community that just pitches subject to all day long, and we end up getting the deal. I had this McLean came into my program. He was in it for only 45 days, and he went head to head with this other sub two student, if you will, and he had no clue, and he ended up getting the deal because we pitched it in a way that made more sense, and there was a realtor there that was involved because we're like, why would you transfer the deed out of your name? So you kind of just play into it. It's a little salesy, but it works.
Okay, so he came into your program and like, did you help him with that, or
Oh yeah,
did he?
100%. Yep. So when they come into the program, what I do is I teach them first of how to find the deals and talk to sellers and build a rapport. And then what they do is they come in, and on Tuesdays at 6:30, that's when they bring the deal in and we underwrite it together as a group and we go through it. If they don't have it under contract, I tell them not to bring the address, but bring all the information, why they're selling, what they plan on doing capital, the comps, get in it, and then we analyze and we underwrite it. So we go through the actual live deal, and then we talk about how to present. We look at our what strategy we want to take it down. Is it a subject to, whatever it may be? And then we look at our exit. Are we going to rent it? Are we going to wrap it? Or are we going to put a rent to own buyer in there? Or, so we look at all the different exit strategies. And then I always look at risk. What is my risk? Where's my risk involved in here? What's my cash flow? Does it make sense? For me, I want a minimum of $450 a month cash flow, minimum. Now, I have done one where I was only cash flowing $48 a month, but I had $109,000 in equity in it. So that one's a little different. So that's kind of what we do. So he went out there, he was amazing building a rapport with the seller, and it was all about the relationship, and that's how we got the deal. Because he was really good at the phone building a relationship, and he didn't understand real estate, but he does. And so we taught him how to do it. And then oftentimes when they come in the first time, the first deal, I'll even jump on a call with them and help them present it. And they also use me as their partner, if you will, if they're in my program. Hey, my partner's been doing this since 1995. He's been, going on 30 years, and they can look me up. So it helps them build some credibility.
Well, that's awesome. Okay. Um, let's go back to Liz's. She just dropped some more info real quick. Let's drop back to
Sure.
that. We propose a contingency on the promissory note stating that it would be forgiven if the a due on clause gets called. Not much equity, but low interest under 4%.
It's a great deal. I like it. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Try to present it and go for it. If they do on sales clauses called, I would put it into a trust and make sure when you put it into a trust, you use the seller's last name, like Monroe FL. Don't do the address anymore because now lenders are starting to pick up on that. Because a lot of over the years, investors always would put the address trust. So you got to start being a little creative when you're creating the trust name. And again, lenders, as long as you're getting the payments, they're not gonna have a problem. They're starting to have a little bit of a problem because subject to deals were never designed to do assignments. They're always designed for us investors to stay in the middle. And what's happening is these guys are just doing assignments and not even aware when they're putting their end buyer, if the end buyer is living there as a homestead buyer, there's consumer protection regulations that you have to underwrite that end buyer to make sure they can afford it. And people are not even aware of it. They're just looking for that large assignment fee and putting people into it. And so there's starting to be complaints because the wholesalers are putting buyers into properties that shouldn't have gone in and they can't afford it. So it's starting to become a little bit of an issue. And some lenders are starting to pay attention to that. The other thing, what lenders are starting to notice is, because normally when you do a subject to deal, you're getting a power of attorney. And when you send a power of attorney in from you as the investor to the lender, they're starting to look at that. And I've heard a few loans being called due on that. It used to be the insurance that was always a big issue, but now they're even starting to pay attention to the power of attorney. So just have your title company reach out to the lender and do the power of attorney. If you go through the title company, you won't have as many headaches and many as problems with it.
Okay, before we get to the next question, can you just explain a little bit of what your program is?
So my program we do a group mentorship program. We bring people come in, and on Tuesdays at 6:30 to 8, I'm in there, I'm hosting it. It's all questions and answers. We talk about anything that you guys have questions on. We underwrite deals. We talk about, how to set up LLCs, where to set up LLCs. Like Wyoming is the best place, in my opinion, because you have what's called charging order protection. We talk about, how many different assets should you have in one LLC. So if anything happens to diversify your risk. We talk about raising capital, how to go about raising capital. Like, for example, we just had a week or two ago, we talked about an example like, Matt, let me ask you a question real quick. You go to real estate conventions, right? That are at hotels. Where's the last one you went to a real estate convention that you spent the night at a hotel?
Um, I did it a couple nights ago. It was kind of a little different though. It was Mike's summit up at their hotel that they own. So
So they stayed at a hotel. And how many people do you think were there?
50 to 60. It was a
Okay, cool.
smaller event.
Right. And after the event, where do you guys all hang out and network and socialize when you're done at the show? Where do you guys usually hang out?
Yeah, we so a lot of times it just depends whether we go to a bar or go somewhere to sit down and relax.
Sure.
But
So, yep, you hit the nail on the head. The hotel lobby bar.
mhm.
So a few years ago, I'm in Boca. So a few years back, that there was a cardiac physician convention at the Ritz-Carlton in Miami. I can't get in
Oh,
because I'm not a cardiac physician. Guess where I went and hung out?
the
The
bar.
hotel, the hotel lobby bar. I ended up raising $475,000 that way, just kind of networking, building rapport and relationship. So that's one example we talk about how to raise capital, how to have these conversations with investors. If you want to raise capital, we talk about how to present offers. So in the program, we talk about how to present offers, doing LOIs, how to have conversations. The hardest part, it seems like people at first is having problems trying to figure out the conversation. So what I always tell people to do is when you first come in, you want to jump on Zillow, look for sale by owners, look for your buy box, come up with a buy box, and call an area where you don't care if you screw up on. Call an area that you not want to do business in. So think of it like spring training. Just start practicing and making calls. I want you to have 30 to 50 deep, good conversations with sellers and understand the sellers, because once you get that and you understand that part of it, the numbers and stuff and the strategies it comes. The talent in this is really to understand the sellers and the psychological and pull it out and how to solve the sellers. And really, we talk about mindset, but my mindset is perspective, how you look at deals. You want to pick up the phone. You have to have a good mindset, and that's one thing I'm a little lax and I need to work harder to help people, but we have other people in the community, because I think everybody should just be picking up the phone, going up. But I know mindset is key and you need to take action. And the other thing, and I really push failure. If you're not failing, you're not learning. So you got to think you want to fail, because if you're failing, you're learning. Look at Elon Musk with SpaceX. Look at how many times they blew up the rockets. They kept failing and failing, and they finally got it. I mean, they just had a failure not too long ago in that last test. So you want to understand you're going to fail, but you have to understand that's how you learn. 75, 80% of people, when they fail, they quit, and you got to keep going and keep pushing through, and that's the key to it. And that's what really makes you stand apart from everybody else. So it's learning. You're gonna learn, you're gonna fail, and that's how you learn, because there's a lot of moving parts, but once you understand it, you're gonna be able to pick up and keep moving on and start building up that passive income. So we go through that. Then on Wednesdays at 7:30 to 8, we do an underwriting call. That's strictly underwriting. We analyze deals into that one. And then And then also we do accountability calls on the other days, on Thursdays.
I
So
don't know,
right now we're doing
I don't know
3
why recording
weekly
stopped.
Zooms.
Sorry about
Yep.
that.
Yep. And then we have our own private Facebook group, our community.
Awesome. You got a lot going on in there.
It's
So if I
we
needed
help
help
people. Go ahead.
if I needed help with a deal, I could come and bring a deal there and you could help me analyze it.
Oh yeah, yeah, we do it, and that's how you're going to learn is coming in, and all the deal analysis that we do, they're all recorded, so people can always go back and watch it. And like that one, like especially when the good ones, I love good creative ones, and when they get really good and try to figure it out, that's the fun part. I get, you know, in teaching people how to do it, and what's happening now is people in the community know exactly what I'm going to say and where I'm going, and they already know a lot of times what how to underwrite it and how to present it to sellers.
Okay. And
But
now
I'm
if you
I'm
guys
there
want to know
always.
more,
Yeah, I'm always there helping them and giving them that advice, and then even jumping on the phone call with them on the first couple of calls with sellers. I'm sorry to cut you off, Matt.
no, you're good. No, you're good. If you guys want to know, find out more about the program and see if it is right for you, and see, we want to make sure that it is right for you. So I'm dropping a link so you can schedule a call with either Reese or Tommy. They can help you understand what's going on and they'll ask you some questions to see if it's a good fit for you. We want to make sure it's going to be something that's going to help you out. We don't want to just have you come in and just sit there and do nothing. We want to make sure that you're able to take action with this. So hop
And
on,
have
there's a link
fun.
there. Have
Have fun
fun.
with it. That's the key, is
Yes.
have fun with it. You know what I
Have
mean?
fun and make
Enjoy it.
money.
Just have fun, enjoy it. Just have a good time with it.
Heck yeah. So there's a link there, guys. We'll talk about it a little bit later too. But I got some questions for you. You ready?
Bring it on.
All right. Is is there a
Oh,
way to do negative equity deal that makes sense to an investor to take it down? The owner is open to creative finance and it is a 3% mortgage.
okay. So you cut out. Alexa came back on, so I must have internet now. But you cut
Oh,
out on me there when she came in. So go ahead and repeat that one more time.
you're good. Is there a way to do a negative equity deal that makes sense to an investor to take it down? The owner is open to creative finance and it is a 3% mortgage.
It and that absolutely, it comes down to that one comes down to the monthly cash flow. That's where I would look at it. So I'm willing, when you're saying negative equity, there's no equity in the deal at all. It might even be upside down. I'm willing to pay, not crazy, I'll pay whatever maybe the mortgage balance is, as long as it's within reason, as long as I'm getting terms. If I can get 7, 10, 15-year terms on it, I'm good with it because I know time value and money. And that's the beauty of seller financing. You have to understand the time value and money. So, and I'm going to get into that deal with no money if it's negative equity. I'm not going to give the seller anything, maybe a little bit to move, but if I'm going to be negative equity, you go sell that, Mr. Seller. You're going to have to bring money to the table. I've done a deal where I did a deal one time where this lady was going to have to bring $1,800 to the table after paying realtors and all these fees, and I ended up giving her $10,000 to move. And yeah, I gave her $10,000 to move, and I brought them in 2 months behind in a mortgage. So I was into it for about $16,000, and it was about $280,000, $287,000, something like that. And then I sold it as a rent to own, and my end buyer put $25,000 down. So at 25,000, I was into it for 16. So I got money back. I made money at the front end after closing costs, everything. I was into it for 16, but my buyer put $25,000 down. So what happened was that the market jumped up a little bit. So I was into it for like 200, but at that time, I usually sell my properties, my end buyers, for about 10% more than what the current value is. So I sold it to them for $379,000. And the mortgage was 2,100. The market rent was 2,700. So I was getting $2,800 a month, and the payment was 21. So I was cash flowing $700 a month, and it was a 5-year term to my end buyer. What happened was after after like 3 years, they were moving. Something happened. I don't know what happened. They were moving out of the area. They weren't going to buy it. So his biggest concern is that $25,000. It's non-refundable. Now remember, I sold it to them for 379,000. I looked it up. It was worth $465,000. I said, okay, what I'll do is I will give you your money back, but I'm going to give you your $25,000 back as when I get a buyer and they give me the money, I'll go ahead and give you your money. And I deducted a little bit because they destroyed the carpet in there. So I deducted a little bit, but I didn't have to give them that money back. It's non-refundable, but I'm not going to be greedy and a pig. And I end up selling that thing for 449,000. And my payoff on the mortgage, because I paid it down, was $251,000. So I cash flowed $700 a month, and you can see the cash flow spread that I did. But I did give that tenant buyer back his money, which I didn't mind because I had such a big spread on the back end. So, and that was a negative equity deal in the beginning, but because I waited for time, the value went up, and it worked out in my favor. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. Um, let's see.
You
Who
got to
else
look
that?
at the cash. You got to look at the cash flow, the monthly cash flow on that thing.
Oh, Brad. Okay, Brad Robinson. The negative equity deal is a title company referral. So
Okay, awesome. Run your numbers. It's hard to determine that until you run the numbers. When you say negative, do you know how much negative? How much are you going to be upside down by? I'm just
let us know.
curious.
Let us know, Brad.
Okay, I'm just curious what the negative on that one is.
Yeah, and then real quick, let's go ahead and pop over on this one while he answers that.
Sure.
This is from Dennis. Do you suggest calling first or texting sellers first?
Um, both. You got to see what works best. You know, I like to ask some basic. Sometimes you might want to text, do some basic information, but to build a rapport, you really got to get on the phone and say, "Hey, when would you be available? Hey, can you tell me a little bit about the property? Hey, would you be available to jump on a phone call a little bit later tomorrow or tonight or whenever? I'd like to talk a little bit more about it." So you open it up sometimes with text, especially if you're using VAs. Um, it depends on the accent. Um, Text messaging, I had them open up and get some basic information, and then I will go ahead and jump on a phone call with the seller on it and finding out, hey, it sounds like a beautiful home. Why are they selling? Because if my VA does that and I know why they're selling, but even then, though, it can be hard. They may not. It's not the same as being on a phone and building rapport because you have to build a rapport to get seller financing deals. I've said this over and over. When you get seller financing deals, you have to treat it like a marriage. You're going to be a long-term commitment. So when you're talking to them and meeting them or talking to them the first time, you have to think of it like you're on a date with your spouse. You're getting to know each other. So 80% of my phone call is building rapport. So you have to try a lot of different things and find out what you feel comfortable with and what works best for you. Try it both out.
Awesome. All right. And then Brad came back with it's a negative equity of 25,000.
That's not too bad. That's not bad. Do you know what your monthly cash flow would be? Like what the current rate is compared to, so keep that in mind. Now, one thing you got to be careful of, that whatever your monthly payment is, a lot of times when people do a subject to, you want to do a subject to on that one because you want the deed, but I would put it into a trust. And be careful how it's done because a lot of times some people will end up doing it and then they don't realize that depending on when that other owner owns it, this one you'll probably be fine, but I've seen it where an owner has owned a property for years and when they're underwriting the deal, they're going off of the owner's current taxes. Keep in mind, those taxes are going to adjust when you become that new owner. So you got to keep that in mind when you're underwriting your deals.
Yes. All right. Good, Siobhan. Good. Making me so excited. That's what she said. All right. Terrence, is 10% a good amount to increase the sales price to the end buyer now?
Usually I do that depending on how long it's going to go out to the end buyer. Because you want to make sure whatever the end of that term is, there's going to be equity for that end buyer to be able to refinance it to get it out and pay you off or pay it off the loan. So that's the key you got to look at. But typically 10% is a good amount. That's usually what I do. Um, Even if it's like a handyman special wherever I'm buying at, and the other thing is you got to go, and this is where a lot of people are getting wrong here. They're doing ARVs is from the wholesale world when you do the cash. ARVs do not work the same in seller financing because it's the as is value. So you got to keep that in mind. So people are like, oh, the ARVs, this and that. In the seller financing world, you've got to go off of the current as is value because that could throw your numbers way out of whack. Like say, for example, it's like a $50,000 repairs and you don't do the right way, you're gonna have a problem because you're trying to like increase it. You're gonna and your end buyers are not going to pay it. And that's a big problem with the wholesalers. I see a lot of times that's posted in my seller financing group there that they're doing ARVs and then you're looking at the numbers and they're having a hard time but they're not moving the property. So you got to make sure when you're negotiating with a seller, you're going off the as is value. Keep that in mind. And that's where a lot of people are kind of making mistakes, the new people in that world right now.
Okay. And real quick, there's a couple questions about the coaching program.
Sure.
So you got coaching 3 times per week, right? There's 3 sessions per week.
Mhm.
Um, can we DM you, or can we do we only post in the private Facebook group?
We prefer it in a group because everybody can learn. So what happens is, say somebody else has a question and it goes in there and you watch and learn it. And a month later or 2 months later, you may come up with that same situation. So that's kind of where we prefer it. And then also what happens is if I'm tied up, other people in the group will give their inputs. And it's good. You have different minds all coming together. So you're getting multiple answers. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yep, for
So
sure. And
it's
it's
smarter doing it in a group. You can DM, but you may take a little bit getting back. But everybody can learn, and that's the community of it. That's kind of the purpose of it.
mhm. And then is it lifetime or is it reoccurring? How is it
It's lifetime. It's lifetime. Yep.
lifetime one time
Yep.
fee for right
Yep.
now?
Yep.
Get
Typically,
in now and you get lifetime.
exactly. Yeah. So typically, people come in and they're in it for full time for about 3 to 4 months. They're getting all the knowledge, learning, and then they're out there doing deals. And then they come across a situation that they haven't, and then they pop back in. But then there's people in there that are always in there networking and doing deals together with each other. People, I got some people that have some capital that always pop in there because they want to invest in other deals. So that's usually traditionally what happens. And I think it's good to network because um, I actually my buddy Gabe, he's in Houston, and I met him in a mastermind program like this. God, I think it was 2015 or 16. I don't remember when it was. And what happens is you guys are at a level in your real estate career and journey, right? And you end up you grow together and you can help each other and you call up and you push and motivate each other. He's like, I have a couple guys that are like my accountability partners, but we don't call it that. We just kind of like, oh, what about this or that? We're running scenarios by, hey, we're doing deals together. And then like, Marty goes, oh, I bought an industrial park. And now I'm like, shit, now I got to buy an industrial park. So you kind of get that mindset and you kind of get that, you know,
That competition.
competitive. Yeah, competitive. But I love it that they're doing well. You know what I mean? So if they're doing well, we lift each other all up. We keep lifting and lifting and lifting, you know. So that's kind of, it's good to be in that. And I even jump in other programs myself to kind of network and always be in different things. Like for several years there, I was in a group where it was 20 of us and it was $18,000 a year each year, but it was high level people doing it. And by the way, my program's nowhere near like that, but I was in that world and we're doing bigger deals like storage facility, different things. You're surrounding us. Think of it like an exclusive country club. You're kind of surrounding yourself with those type of people. So you have to invest in yourself to kind of get to that level, if that kind of makes sense. And for years, a lot of times people like, a long time way back when, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I really want to invest and do all this and that. But what happened was I was doing it, didn't even realize it because you start just making some money from it. That kind of makes sense. But the key also is, yes, having somebody help guide you. And people were mentors to me that I didn't even realize they're mentors. Um, so always, I'm always looking at different people to learn from, even myself. I like going into the room and being the dumbest person in the room, quite frankly.
Yes, I always put myself in the room that like I'm like a dummy. Like Uh,
because you can learn. I love learning, I'm like a sponge. I always want to learn. Like, I was up in Ormond Beach and this gentleman I'd known for years is 74 years old. And I met him up in Cape Cod. I used to spend my summers in Cape Cod from 2009 to 2017. So I just lived in Florida and go up there because in this world, you can work from anywhere. That's what I love about it. All I need is my phone and my computer. And so this gentleman, I mean, we talk at least once a week, maybe twice a week. And today we're on the phone talking about what was going on with the market. He was a mentor towards me 25 years ago with the market. And we're on the phone going over, as you guys all saw what happened today with the market, we're all kind of like, all right, what are we doing? This, that, this, and that. So you always want to surround yourself with people that are going to lift you and kind of help and bring value to you. And that's the other key. Make sure you're not around toxic people. Toxic people will hold you back in life, no matter what you're doing. Journey. Oh, you want to see something pretty wild? I hear it.
oh,
I hear one of the big yachts.
let's see it.
I'm waiting for him to come through. If I can see. I'll see it in a second. I'm sitting here looking out the water right now. I heard it, but we'll see. But keep
I
asking the
got you.
next question. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
waiting for it
yeah.
to go by.
So, what is the reason that some title companies do not like closing sub two deals that are FHA?
Because years ago, FHA, and they found out that you did a subject to, FHA would cut the title company off. Whoops. Hear that noise?
Nope.
All right.
Zoom does a really good job of eliminating noise.
That's it.
Yes.
All right. Look at what we got here. You see this guy? Can you
Wow.
see that?
Yeah, that thing's huge. Go ahead and talk.
You hear him doing the sound routers on that? Little guy. He was the one that went out this morning.
Little guy.
You can see that okay, though?
Yeah.
That 110 feet?
I think that one is. She's a beautiful one in there. Anyways, I apologize. You
You're
can
good.
hear it. Hear that sound? It does the routers that kind of keep it from banging on the side. So, anyways,
That's awesome. No wonder why you live there. You got water
oh,
all around you.
beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. Being right on the water and then it's just that close up and get out of here and travel in the summer. I used to have my place at Cape Cod and then with this one, so it was back and forth, but I just enjoy it.
Awesome. Yep. And then people are asking how much the coaching is. Let's go ahead and cover that real quick. We don't really cover the pricing, as we want to make sure that we can help everybody make it flexible. So when it comes to like financing, if you want to finance something or anything like that, so what we can do is just schedule a call and we can help you with that. Whether it's you'll talk to Reese and Tommy first, and then if it's not right for you, we'll let you know, and then we'll move it. And then if it is right for you, we'll have you move on, and you'll talk to Mark, and he'll let you know if what it is and if it's actually a good fit for you completely. So
It's a fraction compared to the other programs
yeah,
out there. Subject
I
to.
pay more to go to conferences than I would pay to go
Yeah.
to the mastermind that he has. I
Yeah,
like
it's yeah. I mean, it's nowhere near like if people looked at the subject to program out there, they charge $9,800. Mine nowhere near that. Way below that on that particular one. And then the other thing is, keep in mind like each like subject to sandwich lease option, agreement for deeds, novation, each one of those technically is a separate, could be its own separate mentorship course type of program. But I just like teaching all of it at once because I think of it as a tool belt. Depending on the seller's needs, that would determine on what tool. Is it a subject to? Is it a sandwich lease option? So that's kind of the purpose of it, if that kind of makes sense.
definitely. All right, so I just so you guys know, I put the link below. Go ahead and schedule a call and hop in and figure out if this is right for you. Mark is a wealth of knowledge, as you guys can see. He's blown my brains. Every time I hop on a Zoom call with him, he's blowing my brains with like all these crazy numbers and all these different creative deals and how you can hack this to do that. It's like
It's
crazy.
fun. It really is. It's kind of like it's just trying to figure out how to make deals work. And like you heard my story. I've said it many times. I grew up with no money. I grew up poverty, and I had to figure out how to be able to make money. Instead of grinding it. I was working for, I was working with a public trade company for a while, and I was in upper management, and I was grinding it and working but it was quite frankly, it was hell. You know what I mean? Looking back at it. But the people I enjoyed with, and the times have changed so much in the corporate world where they're just always pounding you versus, being fun. When I was younger like that, working, it was fun. But then what I really enjoy is like looking at a deal and how to figure out how to make the deal work and kind of make it. And at the same time, don't waste time on a deal if it's not going to go anywhere, and just throw it away and bring it back. Like I can be on the phone now and I can talk to immediately like what kind of seller it is. Like the fix and flip guys in this market right now, they're having problems. Like I don't even want to waste my time with them because they're trying to take all the meat off the bone. So anybody that's owned a property for if an investor's owned a property for 5 years less or less, there's no meat on the bone. And I get it. They want to take it and roll it into another asset. So that's why I like, owners that have owned a property, um, investors, let me back up, investors that own it for 12, 15 years because they like that passive income. But if it's a single family owner that's lived in that primary residence for a year or two, those are good people because they may not have any equity or they're stuck and they can't move it. So you have to know immediately of where you're going to waste your time and what not to waste your time. And you learn that over time.
That's insane. That's insane. I mean, like your knowledge is top level. Like I was like, Mark, I know some pretty creative people when it comes to real estate, but you haven't you have a niche for it. You're doing pretty good with it. So I
It's fun. And I enjoy it. What I really enjoy is like one of the biggest enjoyments that I have is when that end buyer becomes that homeowner. Is a family and they want to actually become a homeowner and they can't do it through traditional, and you help them out and structure in a way where they become a homeowner. And even the seller, I mean, that one example of that seller where she was 2 months behind and that sold it, when we finally paid her off, she called me up and she was so happy because her credit score was 804. And it's just like, and they thank you and they send you referrals and you get so much business. But it's really, really good. I really enjoy helping somebody. It's like, and think of your child at Christmas time and open that gift up and they're so happy and you see the joy in her face. It's such a good feeling. So that is one of the biggest highs there. And then another high is helping somebody out that, where they're at in life and they struggle and they're getting, they can't sleep at night because of the bills or whatever, and they start getting the life going and making money in real estate. Those are the two things I really, really enjoy helping. It's I don't know, it's kind of like a high, if you will. Does it make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And,
Dennis said I lost
and
count of how many times I
yeah,
ran into it the last 3 months or throughout last 3 weeks.
isn't it? Yeah, it's great. And one thing about me, I'm direct. I don't sugarcoat. Like if you guys see me in my group, sometimes I'm calling people out like they're doing certain things. I'm like, dude, be careful because I've been in this industry so long where I've seen investors do certain things and they destroy the community, they destroy our business, and regulations come down, like wholesaling. They're destroying that, and more states are making wholesaling illegal, assignment fees and all that, because they're
Yeah,
just,
Billy actually has
and
a question about that.
go ahead.
Billy has a question about that part.
Sure.
Go ahead. No, keep going with what you
Oh,
had. Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I will call people out and tell them like, hey, just be cautious, educate yourself. Like, don't take advice on social media all the time because a lot of information is incorrect. I always tell people if you want to know something, go directly to the source. Like, there's a post a few days ago that somebody put in there, and they're like, oh, is it illegal or not illegal? I'm like, well, you know what? Call up the mortgage banking regulator and ask them the scenario and run the scenario by them, and you get your own direct opinion. They'll tell you the truth on how to do it. But you can do things the right way. You just got to educate yourself on the right way. Like like I said, what happened was where they put or I talked about there's consumer protection laws when you put that homestead buyer in there. Well, years ago, what happened was, and these investors were dirty, and this is kind of where it's almost happening again now, but people I think are doing it and they're naive and they don't realize they're doing it. But back then they were doing it egregiously. So they would take somebody's 30 to 50, $60,000 down payment, knowing they couldn't afford the property, and then 3 to 4 months later, kick them out and redo it over and over. So these guys kept doing it. It actually took place in Florida, and they went to jail over it. They're egregiously doing it. This was like, I don't know, 2005, 2007, something like that back in the day. And that's when a lot of regulations come in place. So you have federal regulations, you have RESPA, Dodd-Frank, SAFE Act, then the state level has their RESPAs as well. So that's why you need to make sure that you use a licensed RMLO to underwrite your end buyers when you're doing seller financing. And the other thing people don't even realize is when they're posting in groups and they're posting rates and payments and all that, technically they're supposed to be posting APR in there because they're a lender, technically. But nobody's been enforcing it for a while. So it's but based off of RESPA's regulations, that's supposed to be disclosed, but nobody's really doing it. But anyways, go ahead about the question there.
I think Dennis might have something to say to that.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to add, I think I remember that conversation from the other day. It was something about the way they were structuring an after payment on a seller finance deal after it had closed. Was that the one, Mark?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And the other question I had too, you were talking about government regulations. Is there a group called the CFPB involved in that? Consumer Financial Protection Bureau?
Yep, they have they definitely have regulations. That department is probably going to be going out. I think the new administration is going to get rid of that department. But that is that one was mainly designed for stocks, but also the regulating. So yes, that there is that in place, and but they oversee the Dodd-Frank Safe Act. So they oversee the other because you have different regulations in different areas, but they are kind of overseeing all of it. It's kind of like what is the oh my God, Homeland Security.
Yep.
Was overseeing all these other departments, CIA and all that stuff, and FBI, the sheriffs. So you have one department overlooking all these other departments. So, but we'll see what happens with that. But it doesn't matter. You just got to follow the regulations.
Thanks.
Okay.
Sure. And that's why it's really simple. You just use a licensed RMLO. You're not paying for it. Your end buyer's paying for it. People make it more complicated than it is. It's really easy. But people don't know it.
Okay. What is the best way to do deals in all the states with these new wholesaling laws like South Carolina, Philly and Illinois?
Don't do wholesaling. Be the investor. Make the real money. I mean, you can think about this for a second. If you stay in the deal and you do it the right way, okay, you're going to make an average, let's say over 5 years, you're going to make an average, because if you do it the right way, you're going to get money in the front end as you would a wholesale fee, like the example. So all you have to do is like 3 to 5 deals a year. That's all you have to do. And if you're doing it the right way, you're making money on the front end using your buyers, you're generating passive income, and then you're marking it up a little bit. You're an average when you get paid off in that back end is anywhere between $75,000 to $150,000 when they pay you off. So let's say you're doing like a 5 or 7 year balloon. You're doing 3 to 5 deals a year, right? And you build that up in your pipeline. You're going to be getting all that loans being paid off in 3 to 5 years. So you're going to be making between $300,000 to $500,000 per year on those deals in the back end, plus the passive income coming in without doing new deals. But if you keep doing 3 to 5 deals and keep building your pipeline up, just run your numbers yourself and you'll see how much money you can make off of that. And you're just grinding it. In wholesaling, you're grinding it for what, $10,000? You can make that $10,000 if you do it the right way and you structure the deal up front. You can make that $10,000, $15,000 in the front end using your buyer's capital, having them put the money down.
That plays out better in taxes too, doing it doesn't that way, right?
It does. You will get some of that in the back end, but yes, if you sell it and you're becoming a lender and structuring it that way, it does help more of it. But again, I'm not a CPA. the tax laws always keep changing. So that one's always, over the years, that's always moved. It's always a moving target. Because who knows in 5 years what the taxes is going to be like in 5 years of different administrations and stuff. So it's always jumping around.
Awesome. All right, let's see. How does your program compare slash contrast to William Bronchick's creative owner financing program?
I like William Bronchek. His stuff is good. His stuff is all individuals. His stuff is very individual, different courses instead of all the. And his, I don't think he does mentorship. I think his stuff is just video stuff.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mark
I don't say anything. I don't say anything bad about him. He doesn't. He does. His stuff is all video stuff. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, did you take Maryland loan officer broker training every 2 years?
Back then we were a real estate banking, and back then our LOs did not have to be licensed. They all fell under umbrella. That was then after the collapse, then all that changed. So that was when I had that firm, was before 2008. It was different times. So we were a real estate banking firm, and we had a warehouse line with Mellon Bank that we used to fund our own deals, securitize them, sell them off into the secondary market. But yeah, and then even one of my partners actually was the president of the Mortgage Broker or Banker Association. We're talking years ago.
Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's all the questions we have so far. So it's 8:40 now. We've gone over a
Wow.
little bit, but it went by quick. Lots of questions, which is good. We always
Hopefully,
enjoy
Chris,
questions.
get out there and make money.
Make that money. That's what I like to say. All right. So if you guys want more information on Mark's program, there is a link. Just click it. Schedule a call. It's a 15-minute, just real quick discovery call to see if the program's right for you. You'll either speak to Tommy or Reese. They'll help you out. They'll get you going. And then the next call would be with Mark to figure everything out. So if you guys would like to schedule a call, just do it within the next, I think there's availability for now until the end of this week. Go ahead and schedule it and get things rolling. The longer you wait, the less money you can make. So,
Thank you, Tommy.
is that it?
I mean, Matt, you just said Tommy, so my name's there.
You're good. So yeah, that's it, guys. We'll talk to you all later. Have a great rest of the week. Mark, any closing remarks?
Just take action. Just do it. There's a lot of great questions, and just off the questions, you guys have got some good knowledge. I can just tell by your question. So keep at it.
All right. You want to answer that last one?
What's it saying?
What is the best way to assign an REO non-assignable contract?
Put it into have the buyers an LLC or a land trust, and then just sell the beneficiary off of it. Instead of doing an assignment, you're selling the trust off instead. So make the buyer's name a trust. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So when I do stuff like that, or if I'm buying, like, I always as the buyer, I'm always putting the buyer whatever the trust is as the buyer. So when I do in the contracts, and then and the reason why I like a trust is because you don't have to reach out to the state. You don't have to pay a fee of $155 or $200, whatever state you're doing it in. Because that was one way some people are doing it. They put an LLC and then sell the LLC off. You could do it in a trust, and then what's called assignment of beneficiary, the trustee. I mean, the assignment of the beneficiary. So you can transfer it from one LLC to another LLC through the trust. And that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thanks,
Be well,
Mark.
guys. Take care.
See you guys.
All right, guys. Bye.